Have you ever met someone whose words felt effortless? Someone who spoke so naturally that you instantly trusted them, even before you understood why? Their voice carried calm, their pauses held meaning, and every sentence seemed to land exactly where it should. That isn't luck, it's psychology. Communication is not about the words you choose, it's about the mind that chooses them. Most people speak to be heard. Smart communicators speak to be felt. When you understand how emotion shapes language, how silence adds weight, and how presence builds trust, you unlock a level of influence that goes far beyond vocabulary. This audiobook, How to Speak Smart, Mastering the Psychology of Effective Communication, is designed to help you understand the unseen dynamics behind every interaction. You'll discover why some conversations flow effortlessly while others collapse in seconds, why tone matters more than logic, and how empathy can turn ordinary talk into meaningful connection. Across these 10 chapters, we'll explore not just how to communicate, but how to connect, persuade, and create impact with authenticity. So take a slow breath, let your thoughts settle, and open your mind to a new way of speaking, where words become emotion and emotion becomes understanding. Chapter 1. Understanding Human Connection. Every true conversation begins long before the first word is spoken. It starts with presence, the invisible energy you bring into a room. When two people meet, their brains begin exchanging silent signals before any greeting happens. Tiny movements, tone, and eye contact all create an instant emotional map, comfort or tension, warmth or distance. That's why you sometimes feel at ease with someone immediately, and other times uneasy without knowing why. Our mind speaks before our mouth does. Communication is an emotional exchange where every word carries the energy of your inner state. When your thoughts are restless, your tone feels rushed. When your emotions are calm, your words become magnetic. Speaking smart begins not with vocabulary, but with awareness. Notice how you feel before you speak, because your inner world shapes every sound you make. Before greeting someone, pause for a breath, feel your presence, and then speak naturally. You'll notice your tone becomes slower, warmer, and more genuine. This is awareness before articulation, the first rule of communication psychology. When your energy is balanced, your words carry depth. People might forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. That is where real connection begins. Connection is not built through words. It's built through understanding. And understanding begins the moment you choose to listen, not with your ears, but with your full attention. Most people listen only to reply. Smart communicators listen to feel. They listen beyond sentences and into the emotional current flowing beneath each word. When someone speaks, their tone tells a deeper story than their language ever can. You can sense fear behind laughter, exhaustion beneath confidence, or sadness hiding in silence. The psychology of connection is about tuning yourself to these invisible signals. Because when you truly listen, people feel it instantly. Their shoulders drop, their voice softens, they start to trust you, not because you agree with them, but because they finally feel heard. The human brain is wired to seek safety in conversation. When we speak and feel unseen, we withdraw. But when someone listens with warmth and patience, our mind relaxes, our words flow freely, and honesty appears. That is when real dialogue begins. To speak smart, you must master the discipline of deep listening, allowing others space to pause, to breathe, to finish their thoughts. Silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's the calm space where understanding forms. Let silence do its work. When you replace the urge to respond with the desire to understand, your entire communication shifts. Your tone becomes softer, Your expressions reflect empathy. Your words begin to carry peace instead of pressure. In that atmosphere, connection grows naturally. There's a quiet strength in those who make others feel safe while speaking. They don't interrupt. They don't compete. They don't rush to prove they are right. They stay grounded and patient, and that steadiness makes their voice believable and their presence magnetic. Before every conversation, remind yourself of this truth. Communication is not a contest. It's cooperation. Your goal is not to win the moment, but to connect through it. Let your words act as bridges, not barriers. Let your tone hold calm instead of control. When you speak with that awareness, your energy shifts the entire room, and people listen because they want to, not because they have to. That sense of trust becomes the foundation for every chapter that follows, because without emotional connection, no technique, no vocabulary, and no logic can make your words truly matter. Every interaction begins with a moment that quietly defines everything. Long before you finish a sentence, people start reading you. They notice your eyes, your posture, your tone, and even the rhythm of your presence. Within seconds, their brain decides whether to trust you, whether to relax, or whether to stay guarded. It happens instantly and silently. It may seem unfair, but your own mind does the same thing. This instant judgment is natural. It's how the brain protects us by scanning for safety and familiarity before logic even appears. Your presence communicates long before your words ever do. Chapter 2. The Power of First Impressions. Smart communicators understand this deeply. They know the moment they enter a room, communication has already begun. They don't try to impress. They focus on connection. Their calm energy, relaxed tone, and open posture quietly say, "You can feel safe with me." That unspoken signal builds trust faster than any words ever could. When you meet someone who feels confident yet kind, your mind relaxes. You listen differently, your mood softens, and you become open. That is the power of a first impression. It shapes how everything that follows will be received. Creating a good first impression doesn't come from forced charm or fake smiles. It comes from genuine presence. When you approach a conversation with calm curiosity instead of the urge to perform, people feel it. They can sense authenticity even in silence. Your energy becomes the introduction before you speak. Small behaviors carry great influence. A soft smile, gentle eye contact, or a respectful pause can trigger comfort in another person's brain. But tension, impatience, or overconfidence can cause distance instantly. It's rarely what you say that defines your impression. It's how you make people feel when you arrive. Before any interaction, take one deep breath and remind yourself, I am here to connect, not to prove. That single thought steadies your body language and smooths your tone. Others won't know why they feel calm around you, but they will. A strong first impression isn't about perfection. It's about emotional balance. When your presence feels calm and steady, people trust your words naturally, and that trust becomes the doorway through which real communication begins to flow. A lasting impression is never an accident. It's a reflection of what you feel inside. Your emotions travel through your voice, your movements, and even the pauses between your words. People don't remember every detail you say. They remember the emotional temperature you bring into a space. That's why self-awareness is the foundation of powerful presence. Before any important interaction, check your internal state. Are you calm, or are you carrying tension? Are you grounded, or are you distracted? When your inner world is unsettled, your communication leaks anxiety in subtle ways. Your tone sharpens, your shoulders stiffen, and your smile feels rehearsed. But when your inner energy is centered, your presence naturally radiates confidence without effort. One simple practice can change the entire tone of your presence. Slow breathing. Taking 1 or 2 deep, unhurried breaths before you speak resets your nervous system. It quiets mental noise and lets your body align with calm authority. People may not notice the breath itself, but they will feel the steadiness that follows it. That quiet control is what makes your first impression memorable. Another secret is eye contact. Not the intense kind that feels heavy, but the gentle, genuine gaze that says, "I see you." When you look at someone with warmth rather than judgment, their mirror neurons activate a sense of safety. Their brain unconsciously mirrors your calmness. In that shared moment, words become secondary because the emotional channel is already open. Your tone completes the picture. Speak slightly slower than your normal pace. Allow small pauses. The mind perceives calm pacing as confidence. People who rush sound uncertain even when they are right. Those who speak slowly seem trustworthy even before they finish. Pausing gives weight to meaning. It tells the listener that your words matter. Body language supports everything else. Keep your shoulders relaxed, chin neutral, and gestures soft but deliberate. Too much movement creates noise. Too little can seem distant. Balanced gestures signal emotional control, and that control makes your presence magnetic. Remember, a powerful first impression isn't about changing who you are. It's about aligning your energy with your intention. When your purpose is clear and your state is peaceful, authenticity shines through effortlessly. People sense it and respond instinctively with openness. The mind trusts what feels genuine, and genuineness comes from internal honesty, not performance. If your intention is to connect, not to impress, that truth will always be felt without you having to prove it. So, as you step into each new conversation, carry stillness with you. Let your calmness speak first, because before anyone hears your words, they hear your energy. And that is where the psychology of communication truly begins. Chapter 3. Listening like a psychologist. The most meaningful conversations are not shaped by how well we speak, but by how gently we listen. Real listening is a quiet art. It asks you to slow down, to set aside the noise inside your mind, and to simply be present with another human being. Most people only hear words. A mindful listener feels emotions, tone, and intention moving quietly beneath those words. Every voice carries 2 messages. One is spoken, the other is felt. The spoken message tells you what a person says. The felt message reveals why they are saying it. When you begin to notice the sigh before a sentence, the pause after a word, or the softness that hides inside a voice, you start hearing truth that ordinary ears often miss. Listening like a psychologist means entering each conversation with empathy, not evaluation. It is not about solving or advising. It is about allowing the other person to unfold safely in your presence. When someone feels truly heard, their whole body relaxes. Their tone becomes warmer. Their trust begins to grow naturally. We often believe communication fails because of disagreement, but most of the time it fails because no one feels understood. The moment a person senses genuine attention, their heart opens. In that space, understanding replaces tension. To listen this way, quiet your inner replies. Let each word land before you think of a response. Allow small silences to breathe between sentences. Those silences are not empty, they are healing. They tell the speaker, "I am here with you." Sometimes the most powerful reply is a calm presence, not an answer. Your body language can speak this same calmness. Keep your posture relaxed, your expression kind, your eyes gentle. Small signals, a nod, a slow breath, an unhurried gaze, tell the other person that they are safe to be honest. That safety invites depth, and depth builds trust. Listening like a psychologist does not mean analyzing people. It means being fully present with them. When you listen with peace instead of pressure, you start to feel what they feel. You begin to understand emotions that words cannot describe. In that stillness, connection grows quietly. And when it does, you realize that listening is not a pause between your words. It is the place where all real communication begins. Listening is more than hearing. It is the quiet act of creating space. A space where another person feels safe enough to be real. In that space there is no rush, no judgment, no hidden agenda. There is only presence. And presence is what heals communication. When you listen deeply, you begin to notice how people speak, even when they are silent. A sigh, a lowered gaze, a small pause. These are tiny emotional footprints that reveal how someone truly feels. Sometimes their silence is not emptiness, it's protection. They are waiting to see if it's safe to open up. When your energy feels calm and kind, they slowly begin to trust you with what words could not say. The most powerful listeners are those who make others feel seen without saying much. They allow silence to stay a little longer. They nod gently instead of rushing to respond. They understand that listening is not about proving you understand. It's about allowing understanding to happen naturally. When you practice this kind of gentle awareness, something beautiful begins to occur. People start speaking differently around you. Their tone softens. Their thoughts become clearer. Their honesty unfolds without resistance. It's as if your calmness becomes a mirror that helps them see themselves more clearly. Listening like a psychologist also means being aware of what you feel while you listen. Sometimes, when we hear something emotional, our instinct is to react, to fix, or to relate it to our own story. But real empathy asks for stillness. It asks you to let their feelings exist without interruption. You don't need to carry their pain or solve their confusion. You just need to witness it with compassion. That quiet witnessing often brings more healing than advice ever could. In today's fast world, people crave someone who truly listens. Not someone who agrees, not someone who debates, just someone who listens without distraction. Every time you offer that kind of attention, you give something rare, peace. And peace is what every heart seeks when it speaks. So, the next time someone talks to you, slow down. Feel their rhythm. Breathe with them. Let your calmness be the ground on which their emotions can safely land. When you do that, your presence becomes a comfort, and your silence becomes a language of its own. Listening is not the opposite of speaking. It's the foundation of it. Because once you learn to listen with your heart, your words will begin to carry the same peace that your silence once did. Chapter 4. Emotional Intelligence in Speech. Every word you speak carries a feeling behind it. That feeling shapes how others receive your message. It can soften your voice or harden it, invite closeness or create distance. This is the quiet power of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to recognize what you're feeling in the moment and to understand what the other person might be feeling too. When emotions are unrecognized, they take control of communication. You may not intend to sound defensive, but your tone gives it away. You may think you're calm, yet your words carry tension. Emotional intelligence begins when you pause long enough to feel before you speak. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about managing them with awareness. A person who speaks with emotional balance is naturally magnetic. Their words feel safe. Their tone carries warmth and stability. You can sense that they're not reacting from ego, but responding from understanding. That difference changes everything. To speak with emotional intelligence, you must first become aware of your own emotional temperature. Before you start a conversation, take a quiet breath and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? If you're anxious, acknowledge it. If you're irritated, name it silently. The moment you recognize an emotion, it loses control over you. That awareness allows you to choose your words wisely instead of letting emotions speak for you. Emotional intelligence also means understanding that people don't always express what they truly feel. Anger might hide hurt. Silence might hide confusion. Criticism might be a cry for reassurance. When you begin to sense the emotions beneath the surface, you stop reacting to behavior and start responding to the human behind it. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect or emotionless. It means you communicate with presence, not impulse. You stay grounded even when the conversation becomes intense. That calmness becomes your power. It keeps the space safe for both you and the other person. Every emotionally intelligent speaker carries an invisible grace. They don't speak louder, they speak clearer. They don't dominate the room, they steady it. People trust them because their words feel measured, thoughtful, and kind. Their tone says, "I understand," even before they say the words. The secret is compassion, not just for others, but for yourself too. When you treat your own emotions gently, you naturally begin to treat others the same way. And that softness is what makes communication not only effective, but healing. Emotional intelligence turns your speech into connection, your tone into comfort, and your presence into peace. It is the quiet force that transforms ordinary talk into meaningful understanding. When you speak, people respond less to your words and more to your emotional energy. They feel your calmness, your sincerity, or your frustration even when you try to hide it. That is why emotional intelligence isn't a skill you show. It's a state you create. It quietly shapes every tone, every pause, and every gesture. The first step is emotional awareness. Notice how your body feels when emotions rise. A tightened jaw, a faster heartbeat, a shorter breath. These are your early signs. Instead of fighting them, acknowledge them. A single deep breath can soften the sharpness of anger or the heaviness of anxiety. It's your inner pause, giving your mind time to choose peace before words appear. When you respond with awareness, you begin to speak from clarity, not reaction. Your words become lighter, smoother, easier to receive. People trust you more because your tone feels stable even when the topic is difficult. That steadiness tells others they are safe with you. Another part of emotional intelligence is empathy, the quiet understanding of what the other person might be feeling beneath their words. You can sense tension in their tone or hesitation in their eyes. When you notice these signs, don't rush to correct or argue. Simply hold space for them. Sometimes your silence and gentle attention are enough to help someone feel understood. When you master this balance, awareness of your own emotions and sensitivity to others, communication turns into harmony. Even disagreements start feeling respectful because both sides sense the calm intention behind the words. A good way to practice this is by slowing your responses. Before replying, take a short breath and feel your heartbeat. That moment connects you to your emotional center. From there, speak slowly and with kindness. The slower rhythm allows meaning to settle and emotion to align with truth. Emotionally intelligent communication doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. You may still feel anger or sadness, but those emotions won't drive your words. Your awareness will. That difference is what keeps your voice calm and your message clear. When people leave a conversation with you and feel lighter, it's not because you had the perfect words. It's because your presence carried calm energy. You listened with your heart. You spoke with gentleness. And through that balance, your emotions became a bridge instead of a barrier. That is the quiet mastery of emotional intelligence, turning feelings into understanding and understanding into peace. Chapter 5. The Power of Silence. Silence is one of the most powerful elements in communication, yet it is the most misunderstood. Many people fear silence. They rush to fill it with words, as if quiet moments mean something is wrong. But silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is the space where understanding begins to grow. When you learn to use silence wisely, you discover that it can say what words cannot. It gives your message weight and emotion. A pause after a meaningful sentence allows the listener to feel the truth behind your words. It lets emotions breathe. In silence, the heart catches up to what the mind just heard. Smart communicators know that silence is not a break in speech. It's part of it. The calm between words is what gives language its rhythm, its soul, and its impact. When you speak without fear of silence, your words sound confident. You create space that invites people to listen more deeply. Silence also reveals honesty. When someone speaks and you simply pause instead of rushing to respond, that pause tells them you're truly processing what they said. It shows care. It shows respect. It shows that their words mattered enough to let them linger for a moment. That small stillness builds trust faster than any clever reply. In emotional conversations, silence can be healing. When someone shares pain, you don't always need to fill the moment with comfort or advice. Sometimes, quiet understanding is more powerful than sympathy. A soft nod, a slow breath, and silence filled with empathy can communicate, "I'm here with you," without saying a single word. Silence is also your greatest tool for control. When emotions rise, when voices get loud, silence becomes strength. It allows space for calmness to return. It shows that you are guided by awareness, not impulse. A composed pause often disarms tension and invites reflection from both sides. The next time you speak, notice your pauses. Let them feel natural. Let them rest like soft waves between sentences. Don't be afraid of the quiet. Embrace it. Because in silence, people feel your presence more than your performance. True communication doesn't live in noise. It lives in the stillness between thoughts. And when you master that stillness, your voice begins to carry peace. People will not only hear your words, they will feel your calmness. That is the silent art of powerful speaking, where saying less speaks more. Silence, when used with awareness, becomes a language of wisdom. It carries depth that no amount of speaking can replace. The greatest communicators throughout history have understood that silence gives meaning to words, just as darkness gives value to light. It is in the stillness that clarity takes shape. When you pause intentionally, people lean in. Their attention sharpens, their curiosity heightens, and they feel that what you're about to say matters. That is the secret of rhythm in communication, knowing when to speak and when to stop. The right pause makes words memorable. It lets the listener reflect and connect emotionally. In a world filled with noise, silence stands out. It commands respect without demanding attention. When you stay quiet in moments of chaos, you project control. When you listen in moments of conflict, you project strength. Silence is not weakness. It's emotional maturity in action. There's also a spiritual dimension to silence. When you allow quiet moments during a conversation, you allow understanding to surface from both sides. You give room for truth to rise naturally. It's in these pauses that empathy blooms and misunderstandings dissolve. The calmness you hold becomes contagious. It spreads peace into the space around you. If you observe the most respected voices in any setting, leaders, teachers, or healers, you'll notice they never rush their speech. Their pace is slow, deliberate, and peaceful. They understand that silence between thoughts creates impact. It gives each sentence the dignity it deserves. You can practice this art in your daily life. When you're about to respond quickly, stop for a heartbeat. Breathe. Let silence guide your next sentence. That single breath can change the direction of an entire conversation. It prevents regret, invites grace, and keeps your message grounded. Even in storytelling or teaching, silence has rhythm. A short pause after a powerful line gives it space to echo in the listener's heart. It turns simple ideas into something profound. And when you finish speaking, let silence follow naturally, because true communication continues in the listener's mind long after your words have ended. Remember, silence isn't the absence of communication, it's the soul of it. In silence, the heart listens and the mind understands. When you learn to be comfortable in quietness, your presence itself begins to speak. And that presence, calm, steady and aware, is what leaves the deepest impression. Chapter 6. Framing your words for impact. The difference between speaking and influencing often lies in how you frame your words. The same message can inspire or offend, comfort or confuse, depending on the structure, tone and emotion that carry it. Communication is not just what you say, it's how you shape it. Framing begins with intention. Before you speak, pause and ask yourself, what do I want this person to feel after I speak? That one question changes the entire energy of your message. When your intention is clear, your words align with it. You begin to speak with purpose instead of reaction. Every sentence has weight. When you rush through your words, you take away their strength. But when you choose them thoughtfully, they begin to hold presence. You can say something simple, yet it lands deeply because it was framed with care. The tone you choose becomes the wrapping that delivers your thought. For example, instead of saying, "You don't understand me," you can frame it softly by saying, "Maybe I didn't explain that clearly." Both carry the same meaning, but one creates defense, while the other invites openness. That is the quiet art of framing, turning potential conflict into connection through gentle awareness. Emotionally intelligent communication is never about manipulation. It's about clarity and kindness. You use words not to control others, but to make your message easy to receive. The mind opens to gentle truth faster than it opens to force. The moment your tone becomes aggressive, the other person's ears begin to close. Framing also includes how you emphasize certain words. A slight change in emphasis can shift the listener's entire perception. When you speak slowly and highlight the emotional core of your message, your words begin to touch rather than just inform. They start to carry emotion instead of information. Another part of framing is choosing when not to speak. Sometimes, withholding a sentence that doesn't serve peace is more powerful than expressing it. Wisdom lies not only in the right words, but also in the right silence. When you speak less but speak meaningfully, your voice begins to hold more authority. The goal of framing is harmony. It's the balance between honesty and empathy, truth and timing. When you find that balance, people not only understand you, they feel understood by you, and that is the foundation of real influence. Framing your words for impact is like painting with emotion. You choose your tone like color, your pauses like light, and your message like art. And when done with awareness, every sentence becomes a brushstroke that quietly shapes the listener's mind. The way you frame your message decides whether it will be remembered or forgotten. A well-framed sentence doesn't just deliver information, it leaves a feeling behind. A quiet, emotional echo that stays long after the words are gone. When people recall a conversation, they rarely remember every detail, but they always remember how your words made them feel. To create that emotional echo, you must learn the balance between honesty and gentleness. Honesty without compassion feels sharp, while compassion without honesty feels empty. True influence is born when truth and kindness meet. It's when your message is real, yet your tone is soft enough to be heard. The secret to this lies in awareness. Before speaking, slow your thoughts and feel the emotional tone you're about to send into the world. Every word carries energy. If your inner world is restless, your message will sound harsh, even if your words are correct. But if your heart is calm, even a difficult truth can sound healing. Imagine you need to correct someone. A reactive voice says, "You're wrong." A mindful voice says, "Maybe there's another way to see it." The meaning is similar, but the experience is entirely different. Framing turns confrontation into cooperation simply through emotional awareness. When you communicate, think of your listener as a mirror. Whatever tone you project is often the tone that returns to you. Speak with tension, and tension comes back. Speak with calmness, and calmness spreads. This is the quiet psychology behind all great communication. Emotion travels faster than language. Framing also depends on timing. Sometimes the right words said too soon sound wrong. Emotional readiness matters. If a listener is not in a space to hear, your wisdom can sound like noise. Silence, patience, and empathy are all part of how you frame your message. Practice pausing before important sentences. A small breath between thoughts creates a natural flow that makes your speech feel thoughtful. Listeners subconsciously trust those who speak with ease rather than haste. Your calm rhythm becomes a sign of confidence and respect. When you frame your words with clarity, emotion, and timing, your communication begins to resonate like music. Each phrase feels intentional, each pause feels peaceful. You are no longer just talking, you are connecting on an emotional frequency that words alone cannot reach. Framing your words for impact is not about perfection. It's about awareness. Awareness of tone, timing, and truth. Once you begin to speak from that place, your words stop being ordinary. They begin to carry stillness, depth, and power, and that is what people remember. Chapter 7. Overcoming Communication Anxiety. Every great communicator has, at some point, felt the weight of anxiety before speaking. The racing heartbeat, the dry throat, the sudden doubt. Will they listen? Will I sound right? These moments of fear are not weakness. They are proof that your message matters to you. Anxiety only means you care. The problem begins when that care turns into pressure. When you try too hard to sound perfect, your natural rhythm disappears. The voice trembles, the mind races, and connection fades. The key is not to remove anxiety, but to soften it. Calmness comes not from fighting fear, but from befriending it. Begin by breathing. A slow, deep breath is your body's way of telling the brain, "I am safe." Before you speak, whether in a meeting, a conversation, or a stage, pause and take one long, quiet inhale. Feel your breath travel through you. That single moment grounds your thoughts and anchors your presence. The next step is acceptance. Don't hide your nervousness. Acknowledge it silently. Say to yourself, "It's okay to feel this." When you stop resisting the feeling, it loses power. You become more present, more human, and people connect more easily with a human than with someone pretending to be flawless. Confidence doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means speaking even while your hands tremble. The more you allow yourself to show up honestly, the more natural your communication becomes. Listeners don't look for perfection, they look for sincerity. A calm, honest voice is far more powerful than a polished, empty one. Focus on your message, not yourself. When your attention shifts from how you sound to what you mean, anxiety begins to fade. Your mind relaxes when it serves purpose instead of image. Remind yourself, "I'm not here to perform, I'm here to connect." That simple shift turns nervous energy into warmth. Every time you face fear and speak anyway, your confidence grows a little stronger. Anxiety lessens through repetition, not avoidance. Each experience trains your mind to trust that you are capable. Over time, the body learns that speaking is not danger, it's expression. And remember, even silence can calm nerves. A gentle pause before you begin gives your words time to arrive fully formed. When you start with stillness, your voice follows the same pace. Communication anxiety is not a barrier, it's a teacher. It reminds you to slow down, to breathe, to care, and to be present. Once you learn to work with it instead of against it, your nervous energy transforms into authenticity. And authenticity is the most powerful sound of all. Calm communication is not the absence of nervousness. It is the art of staying gentle with yourself while you speak. The body may still shake, the voice may still tremble a little, but behind that there is awareness, a quiet confidence that whispers, "I am safe, I am enough." That awareness changes everything. When you begin to notice your anxiety instead of fearing it, you start to understand its language. Anxiety is your mind's way of saying, "I care about this moment." It wants you to do well. It's only when you fight that feeling that it grows stronger. The more you resist it, the louder it becomes. But when you acknowledge it softly, it begins to fade. Before every conversation or presentation, take a slow breath. Feel your feet against the ground. Notice your heartbeat, not as a threat but as rhythm, proof that you are alive, present, and human. Then, when you speak, let your voice move with that calm rhythm. The steadiness of breath becomes the steadiness of speech. Don't aim for perfection, aim for presence. When you try to sound perfect, your focus turns inward, and you begin to lose connection with the listener. But when you focus on presence, you naturally sound calm because your attention is no longer trapped in self-judgment. Another way to reduce anxiety is to visualize your words as light, traveling gently from your heart to the listeners. That light carries emotion, intention, and peace. When you imagine your message flowing softly rather than forcefully, your tone naturally becomes warm. It's no longer about getting it right, it's about sharing it kindly. Remember, your audience is not your enemy. Most people want you to succeed. They are not counting your mistakes. They are feeling your energy. If your voice carries sincerity, they will forgive every stumble. What they remember is not the slip of a word, but the honesty of your tone. Also, never underestimate the power of pausing. A small pause before a sentence resets your breath and centers your thoughts. It gives your voice time to return to calmness. Even a few seconds of quiet can bring your nervous system back to peace. In truth, the goal is not to eliminate anxiety, it's to transform it into awareness. Once you realize your nerves are simply energy, you can redirect that energy into passion, emotion, and meaning. That shift turns fear into focus and pressure into purpose. Every speaker, no matter how skilled, once stood where you are, afraid, uncertain, hopeful. The only difference is that they kept speaking, one calm breath at a time. You can do the same, because confidence doesn't come before you speak. It comes from speaking. Chapter 8. Building Trust Through Words. Trust is the heartbeat of all communication. Without it, even the most beautiful words sound hollow. But with it, even the simplest sentences can heal, inspire, and unite. When people trust you, they don't just listen to your words, they feel them. Trust turns sound into sincerity, and sincerity into connection. Building trust begins with consistency. When your words match your actions, your presence begins to carry quiet authority. People may not notice it consciously, but deep down, they sense it. Every time you keep a promise, every time your tone stays kind even in disagreement, trust grows a little stronger. It's not built in grand moments, it's built in small ones. Honesty is the foundation of trust, but it must be delivered with gentleness. Truth spoken harshly creates walls. Truth spoken kindly builds bridges. The listener should never feel attacked by your honesty. They should feel guided by it. That's the delicate balance that emotionally intelligent communication maintains. Another part of trust is transparency. When you admit what you don't know, People respect you more, not less. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's authenticity. Saying, "I'm not sure" or "I might be wrong" shows that your ego doesn't lead your speech. Your sincerity does. That openness invites others to meet you on the same level. Your tone is another powerful carrier of trust. A calm, measured voice signals stability. Even in emotional conversations, when your tone stays composed, people feel safe. They know you are not controlled by impulse. That safety allows truth to flow freely between hearts. Listening is also a language of trust. When you give someone your full attention without rushing to reply, you send a silent message. You matter. That message builds more credibility than any argument could. Listening validates emotions. It tells the other person that their thoughts are seen and their feelings are respected. Trust also lives in timing. Sometimes the right thing said too soon sounds wrong. True connection requires emotional patience, waiting for the right moment to speak when the other person is ready to hear. That patience shows respect, and respect is the soul of trust. When people trust your voice, they stop listening just with their ears. They begin to listen with their heart, and when that happens, your words gain a kind of magic. They don't just inform, they transform. Building trust through words is not about speaking perfectly. It's about speaking truthfully with peace. It's about choosing empathy over ego and compassion over control. When your intentions stay pure, your communication becomes effortless, because trust does the work that words alone never could. Trust is not built by chance. It's built by intention. Every word you speak either adds a brick to that bridge or takes one away. The choice lies in your awareness. People might forget your sentences, but they never forget how safe they felt when you spoke. That sense of safety is the real language of trust. To nurture it, begin by removing pretense. Speak from sincerity, not performance. When your words come from your true self, they carry a natural power. You don't have to sound impressive, you just have to sound real. The human heart recognizes honesty faster than the mind can analyze it. Another key to building trust is empathy, the ability to understand emotions that are not your own. When someone is speaking, don't listen only for facts. Listen for the feeling behind their words. Ask yourself, what is their heart trying to say? When you respond with that understanding, you create a moment of connection that words alone could never achieve. Trust also grows in consistency of tone. Be the same person in calm moments and in conflict. If your kindness disappears when you're angry, people learn to fear your words. But when your voice stays gentle, even in disagreement, you prove that your peace is real. That consistency earns respect faster than persuasion ever can. One powerful exercise to strengthen trust is reflection. When someone speaks to you, softly reflect what they said in your own words. It shows that you are listening, not to reply, but to understand. This small act validates the speaker, confirming that their thoughts have been received with care. That kind of listening creates emotional safety, the foundation of lasting communication. Be mindful of promises too. Each time you fulfill a commitment, no matter how small, you reinforce credibility. Trust doesn't require perfection, it requires reliability. It's built slowly, through moments that prove your intentions true. Silence also has a role in trust. When you don't rush to fill every space, your calmness shows control. It tells the other person that you are grounded, thoughtful, and patient. People find peace in those who speak with stillness. Ultimately, trust is not earned through great speeches. It's earned through emotional honesty. It's when your words, tone, and presence all say the same thing. When people sense no contradiction between what you say and who you are, they begin to trust without question. Speak less to impress and more to connect. Because the goal of communication is not to be right, it's to be real. And being real in a world full of performance is what truly builds trust that lasts. Chapter 9. Reading between the lines. Not every truth is spoken out loud. Most of what people communicate is hidden, not in words but in tone, pauses, and expression. To truly understand others, you must learn to read the quiet spaces between their sentences. That's where real meaning lives. When you listen carefully, you begin to notice that communication is layered. The surface carries words, but beneath that, emotions flow silently. A person might say, "I'm fine," but their eyes, their breath, or their silence might tell a different story. Words describe, emotions reveal. Reading between the lines is the art of seeing what emotion is trying to say when language falls short. This awareness begins with attention. Notice the rhythm of speech. Does it sound rushed or hesitant? Observe facial expressions, micro-movements, and tone changes. A slight pause before a word, a deeper breath, or a lowered voice often speaks louder than the sentence itself. When you begin to sense these subtleties, communication becomes deeper and more honest. But reading between the lines isn't about assuming or judging. It's about sensing. It's quiet observation mixed with empathy. It asks you to listen not just with your mind, but with your heart. When you do that, you start feeling emotions that the other person may not yet have words for. That's what makes people feel understood. Not your answers, but your awareness. This kind of listening requires stillness inside you. If your own thoughts are too loud, you can't hear the gentle emotional cues of another. That's why calmness is not just good for your speech, it's essential for your perception. A quiet mind picks up what a noisy one misses. Every person you meet speaks two languages, the one they use and the one they mean. The first is through words, the second is through emotion. When you understand both, you stop reacting and start connecting. You begin to hear pain hidden behind politeness or hope hidden behind hesitation. You no longer take words at face value. You listen to the feeling they carry. Sometimes, what's not said is more important than what is. Silence, hesitation, or avoidance can reveal discomfort, fear, or unspoken truth. Reading between the lines doesn't mean confronting it, it means acknowledging it quietly. That recognition alone can bring comfort to the other person, even without words. The skill of sensing emotion beyond language turns ordinary conversation into connection. It allows you to understand people even when they can't fully express themselves. That sensitivity is not just communication, it's compassion. So, the next time you listen, listen with patience. Notice the spaces, the tone, the feeling behind the sound. Because sometimes the most important messages are not in what people say, but in what their silence is trying to tell you. Understanding people beyond their words is a quiet kind of wisdom. It requires patience, awareness, and compassion, not analysis or judgment. When you listen deeply, you begin to recognize that everyone carries unspoken emotions. Some hide behind confidence, some behind humor, and some behind silence. True understanding begins when you look beyond the surface and listen to what the heart is trying to say. Reading between the lines is not about decoding people, it's about feeling them. It means being emotionally present enough to notice when someone's tone doesn't match their words, when their laughter hides tiredness, or when their pause reveals hesitation. These are emotional fingerprints, and when you learn to sense them, you begin to connect on a level words cannot reach. To develop this sensitivity, slow your pace in every conversation. Let silence breathe. Don't rush to respond or interpret. Just notice. The way a person exhales after a sentence, the way their eyes shift, or the slight break in their voice. These are all languages in themselves. Most people overlook them because they are too busy waiting for their turn to speak. But when you listen without hurry, emotions start to unfold naturally. Empathy is the bridge that connects you to those unspoken messages. It allows you to feel what others feel without needing to fix or solve anything. Sometimes, when you sense someone's pain, all that's required is quiet acknowledgement. You don't need the perfect reply. Your presence is enough. When someone feels seen without being questioned, they begin to trust your silence more than they trust most conversations. Reading between the lines also teaches humility. You learn that not everything needs to be said aloud, and not every silence demands to be filled. Some emotions are too tender for words. Respect that space. Let others speak at their own pace, and when they pause, stay with them in that pause, not with tension, but with warmth. When you master this awareness, your communication transforms. You begin to sense emotions in real time, adjusting your tone, your pace, and even your energy to match what the moment requires. This isn't manipulation, it's alignment. It's emotional harmony that turns ordinary speech into connection. The beauty of this kind of listening is that it heals. When people feel truly heard, they begin to release the weight they've been carrying. Your calm awareness becomes a mirror that reflects back understanding, and through that you bring comfort, without needing to say much at all. Reading between the lines is ultimately the art of listening with your soul. It's when your attention becomes empathy, and your silence becomes love. Chapter 10. Mastering Influence and Presence. True influence is quiet. It doesn't come from loud words or strong opinions. It comes from calm energy, clear intention, and emotional presence. The most powerful communicators are not those who dominate conversations, but those whose words carry stillness, whose presence alone makes others listen. Influence begins not in speech, but in awareness. Presence is the foundation of influence. It means being fully in the moment, not thinking ahead, not recalling the past, but existing completely where you are. When you speak from presence, your energy feels grounded. People sense authenticity, and that authenticity creates trust without effort. You don't need to convince, you only need to be. Every person has an emotional frequency. When your energy is calm, others unconsciously align with it. This is emotional resonance, the invisible psychology behind influence. A peaceful tone slows the listener's heartbeat. A patient rhythm invites openness. Without saying much, you begin to guide emotions simply through your state of being. Influence is also born from clarity. When your message is clear in your mind, your words flow naturally. Uncertainty creates confusion, but inner clarity creates conviction. That's why it's important to pause before important conversations, to organize not just your thoughts, but your emotions. Speak only when your intention is peaceful and your message is kind. The most influential people don't seek control, they create harmony. They understand that you can't push people into understanding. You can only invite them into it. The tone of invitation is gentle. It says, "Come see what I see," instead of, "You must agree with me." That difference turns resistance into openness. Presence also means listening deeply while you speak. Feel the rhythm of the moment. If the other person seems distant, slow down. If they seem tense, soften your tone. Influence is not about forcing your energy outward. It's about matching the emotional rhythm of the space and guiding it toward calm. Another part of influence is humility. When you speak with humility, your words feel safe. You show that your goal is understanding, not victory. People naturally trust voices that respect rather than dominate. Respect creates influence that lasts far longer than power ever could. Finally, influence grows when your words and your life align. When your behavior reflects your message, people don't just hear you, they believe you. True communication is not about saying what is right, it's about being what is right. That quiet integrity becomes your loudest voice. Influence is not performance, it is presence. It is the peace that fills the space when you speak and the silence that lingers after you're done. When your heart is calm and your words are kind, you don't just influence minds, you touch souls. Real influence is not about changing people, it's about creating the space where they feel safe enough to change themselves. The more peaceful your presence, the more powerful your impact becomes. Influence born from stillness lasts longer than persuasion born from pressure. When you communicate with awareness, people don't just hear your words, they feel your calmness, your sincerity, and your respect. That emotional environment allows ideas to grow naturally. The goal is never to win the conversation. The goal is to plant a thought that gently blossoms in the listener's mind long after you've spoken. Presence is not something you perform, it's something you allow. When your mind stops rushing, when your tone softens, when your breath slows, you begin to radiate peace. And peace, by its nature, influences everything it touches. People might not remember every word you said, but they'll remember how centered you felt. That's the true psychology of influence, not noise, but stillness. To master presence, practice mindfulness in small moments. Feel your breath before you speak. Sense the weight of your words before releasing them. Let your tone mirror calm intention rather than reaction. Over time, this becomes effortless. Your speech slows, your pauses lengthen, and your silence begins to carry meaning. Influence built through awareness doesn't fade when you stop talking. It continues in the quiet after your voice ends. That's when the listener reflects, feels, and understands. True communicators don't seek attention, they awaken awareness. Their words travel not to impress, but to inspire peace. And now, as this journey of understanding communication comes to an end, remember this. Speaking smart is not about sounding intelligent, it's about speaking with emotional wisdom. It's about listening before responding, pausing before reacting, and feeling before expressing. It's the harmony between thought and tone, between intention and energy. When your heart becomes the source of your words, your communication transforms. People no longer hear you as a sound, they experience you as a feeling. That feeling becomes memory, and that memory becomes influence. So speak less to be heard, and more to be understood. Let your calmness become your power. Let your silence hold meaning. Let your presence speak louder than any argument ever could. Because in the end, communication is not about words, it's about connection. And the most beautiful voices are not the ones that speak the most, but the ones that speak with peace.